Welcome to the Mindset Matters, the podcast where psychiatry, medicine, and real human experiences collide, all through the eyes of two psychiatric PAs.
We're your hosts, PA Mercedes Dodge and PA Jessica Spissinger, two passionate psych PAs on a mission to bridge the gap in mental health care.
So whether you're a provider just here to level up your psychiatric insight, increase your mental health skills, you're in the right place.
Each episode, we shine a light on the incredible work PAs are doing in psychiatry and beyond. Our goal is to build a community focused on better patient care, professional growth, and personal well-being.
This podcast, a little disclaimer, is for educational purposes only. We're not here offering medical advice, psychiatric advice. If you or someone you know needs support, please reach out to a licensed mental health professional. All right, guys, let's dive in.
All right. So, Rebecca, I'm so interested in finally meeting you. And it seems you've done a lot of work as a psych PA in a pretty short amount of time, which is really commendable. Can you tell us a bit about how you decided to become a PA and how you wound up into psychiatry?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. I knew I wanted to be a PA from an incredibly young age. I was able to kind of sculpt my path accordingly. I actually had a class in high school where we had guest speakers in different professions speak to us in all different areas of medicine. PA came and spoke to us, and ever since then, that's what I want to do. I always knew I want to do medicine, but I, didn't know specifically what avenue. I was taking physician at one point, but then instead of the med PA, I was like, that's what I want to do. And never wavered from that path at any point. After I was done with undergrad, I started getting my hours for PA school from as young as I could be able to work. I was able to apply to PA school right after I graduated college and started right after that. And then matriculated from Pacific University was my PA program. And then after that, I also got my DMSc, my Doctor of Medical Science, and then have been working only as a psych PA since then, which I truly love. Ended up in psych. I didn't really know this was going to happen, but I'm so glad that it did. It's been such a good fit and been really happy.
I feel like there's a lot to unpack there.
So much I want to know.
Do you remember the person who was visiting your high school? We have a lot of groups. One of them is the PA mom group, and we get a lot of moms. I'm going to go to my kids' high school, middle school, and elementary. I actually presented for middle school during COVID. I don't know how much it's going to impact people, but it totally impacted you. Do you remember that person?
And I was so young at that point. I wasn't in the networking phase, but I didn't get their contact info. No, I don't still know them. And they have no idea that was a big part of what I think that was the seed, right? And I started researching it. I truly believe whatever you want to do, you have to be the most expert in that. So I want to know everything about PAs and how to be a PA. And I'm going to be the most expert in that field. So that was the seed to inspire me to look into it more. And after looking into it more, I shadowed and I did all my due diligence and then became perpetually, increasingly locked in. But what's funny that you say that you have people that do that is I since am that person for my high school. Once a year, I go drive back and I'm the PA that guest speaks in the same, it's a pre-medical professions class, which is nice.
Yeah.
Offers because not all high schools do. And now I do that for them. And I've also talked to other people that they're okay, are high school people even thinking that way? Is it even the right period of age to be doing that? But I still think it is.
They absolutely are thinking about it.
Important to do it early enough so they can sculpt things accordingly.
So I'm curious too, like when you were in college, were you like in one of those pre-PA clubs or something? Because I've noticed those on some of my PA student applicants in high school and college. PAs were not nationally known the way they are now, which speaks to the momentum of our field, which is exciting. I just love that's how you first found out about a PA. You mentioned you never thought you'd be in psychiatry. So when you were in PA school, did you do a psych rotation and think about psychiatry? What other fields did you think you might wind up in?
Yeah, so I did not do a psychiatry rotation.
Not all schools have them.
Yeah, which people don't realize. I precept students now, and all of them have to do psychiatry. That's why they're on a rotation with me. They're so mind boggled of, how could I practice this? And I'm like, well, I didn't even have this experience and I'm doing it. So you can get there if you put in the work for sure. I didn't have a psychiatry rotation. They just had us have some days within primary care or family medicine where we had to spend dedicated with a behavioral health provider. But a lot of times the behavioral health provider we spent time with was a therapist, which is great and needed, doesn't show the whole entire PA role, which also involves pharmacology and medication management. So it's not that I did like psych, I just didn't have that exposure of what a psych PA does as an experience to want to emulate because I didn't have.
Sure.
Psychiatry actually is a lot of that and a lot more than people realize. There's a lot more science within it than I think is even on in PA school. So it ended up being the exact same thing as I wanted in a package that I was pleasant surprise.
Going into psychiatry wasn't why I went into PA school. I wanted to do more family medicine, community medicine, but psychiatry fell in my lap and it just made sense. Finding your path can be interesting. You go into becoming a PA and you're adamant and you know everything about it. I love being a PA because you have so much areas you can grow and go into. And so you just have to find what suits you, which is the beauty of being a PA. Become a generalist and then you expand and specialize. Was there any particular mentor or psych PA that you shadowed or met that just really inspired you?
That's a good question. I'm on social media, Rebecca West Coast PA, and I actually met my first psych PA in person through social media, ironically. And I was on a rotation at the time in PA school. And we had a unique rotation situation where we were on a traveling rotation program. So I rotated and lived in a different state approximately every 6 weeks
Wow.
for an entire year.
Oh my gosh.
New York, Arizona, California, and Hawaii. Like I literally was everywhere.
That's kind of stressful and kind of cool.
Yeah, some people take to it where I loved it. I was like, send me anywhere. I so
Yeah.
love traveling. And it's also cool too, because there's a totally different incidence of disease in different geographical locations.
Mhm.
Like,
Different demographics.
so I got to see a lot of different things that people wouldn't see if they were just in one hospital system location. But back to your question. On one of my rotations, I was in a location near where the current job I have now is, and somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, I'm a PA and you're rotating where I'm at right now. You want to just get coffee? I was like, sure. And they're the reason why I'm a psych PA today and I got to work with them. They got me a job at where they work is where I now work.
So tell us more. Who is the psych PA and
Can you tell
how
us
did they
more?
captivate your interest? Yes.
I mean, it was more so just learning. I'd never met a psych PA. It was really just a random connection who was effectively a stranger. Now, I'm not advocating for everyone to just go out and meet with a stranger per se, but I also think that one yes can totally change things. Capitalize every opportunity. I have no idea where I'd be working right now if I hadn't been.
So I just want to understand this a bit more. You met this person, they're practicing in psychiatry, that inspired your interest. Did you shadow them or loop back to them after you were done with PA school?
No, just became friends and like, well, what's your job like? What do you do? Just had the casual relationship from afar. Well, ended up getting a job in psychiatry. And then since then, I don't have enough hands to count the number of influential PAs I've now met, or just PAs in general, like Meg Sachs, family med PA in New York. I wrote a book with him, so he's incredibly influential on my PA career. Mike Osbach, very influential psychiatry PA. That's also a friend of mine. So yeah, I mean, the list goes on. PAs are awesome. There's tons of awesome ones.
Now with podcasts, social media, and the Psych Congress Institute in December, I think you're coming as well.
Yes, I will be there. The Institute.
And so I feel like we as a community of psych PAs need to come together and continue to build our community because I think there's more of us. Every time that the APA reports what specialty we're in, I see the psych PAs growing, which warms my heart because I think that we are part of bridging the care and access to mental health. I love that you connected with psych PAs. I love that psych PAs continue to build each other up because we definitely are needed. So let me ask you, you met a psych colleague, you started building this network and you fell into psychiatry. What are the most interesting things you feel really keep you connected in psychiatry? Is it the types of conditions? Is the patient story? Is it the collaborative care? Like what really excites you in your practice?
Oh my goodness, there's so many answers to that question. All areas of medicine are important. For example, you medicate blood pressure or blood sugar, you are helping that person in their health lifespan. They're not necessarily like, oh my gosh, my blood pressure feels so good today. I can really feel that. So I think I love the most is the tangible impact that patients feel and they are able to report to you when they get their life back. They get back to work. They're able to take care of their kids for the first time in years. And for me, that's number one, is a tangible impact that you're able to have, which I find to be so profound, if not the most profound in the field of psychiatry, which has been incredibly rewarding. I also love the management, the intellectual problem solving of it. And I think it's also progressing so rapidly with new research and stuff. I think it's an area that we're going to see a lot of growth in, which is exciting.
Do you have particular diagnostic areas, psychopharm areas of particular interest?
I do a little bit of everything. I'm particularly interested in the bipolar population and psychotic profile populations, but I do everything, anxiety, depression.
Yeah.
I just think it's fascinating the tangible impact you can have, especially for those that might feel more affected and how much you can make them feel improved.
Yeah, I think that depression, bipolar, they're pretty common, more common than we really talk about. And being able to reach those patients, make them feel like there is a path forward for their mental health and have a listening ear and get access. I love how has increased with telepsychiatry. I do telepsychiatry across Alaska, Texas, etc. You primarily do telepsych. Tell me a little bit about the pros and cons in practicing telepsych.
Absolutely. It has been. I think a lot of patients that are telepsychiatry patients wouldn't be a patient if telepsychiatry wasn't an option. And I get that.
Valid.
So also some people, it's also a barrier. Maybe there's no transportation or they're in an area that's limited from a clinic. So it also just makes it physically able for them to be in a psychiatry PA's office within the comfort of their own home. Like how wonderful is that? For anything that, of course, there are some things that necessitate an in-person appointment, but for anything, at least for my practice, requires that I'm associated with in-person clinics, in-person providers. So they do have that resource available if needed. Telepsychiatry has been pivotal and so important for patients to truly enjoy it.
So you mentioned that you co-authored a book, and I definitely want to hear more about that. But I'm also wanting to ask, as you were just that first psych PA, week one, getting started, did you have any particular books or resources that you sought out that you found to be really helpful?
Yeah, honestly, I wish I had a better answer to this. I felt like I didn't find that many good resources, which is part of the motivation why I wrote a book myself. So yeah, I can't really point out anything specifically. I mean, there were some research-based podcasts in the field of psychiatry, update for dosing, but a lot of the things that I looked towards was mentor role other providers that I sat down with more one-on-one was more so for me as opposed to specific other resources at the time. I just want to dig in as deep as I can to be the best at this. So that's really what I looked in.
That's a good point. I think that there is definitely a lack of mentorship and preceptorship in the PA world. I know that everyone's trying to precept and mentor. It's so helpful because you're able to integrate what you're learning in real life. Talk not only about the clinical evidence, but also clinically, how do you manage and navigate this with a patient, whether it be on a computer or with someone that's not completely engaged or having difficulty with their motivation. How did you decide to give back and precept? You mentioned that people shadow you.
Yeah, so I precept a lot. I've precepted over 40 or 50 students at this point. Now it's just a part of my daily life. I'm a provider and a preceptor / educator. It's just a part of my role, and I can no longer dissociate the one from the other because I do both all the time. I think I always knew, even when I was a student and I was being precepted, I was like, I want to do that when I'm there. I think I always knew that. And then obviously I had to wait for my panel to be built up and to be ready in that department. I started off doing it with my alma mater, the school I went to. I've had a variety of other programs reach out to me since then. There's a lack of that mentorship. So I want to be a part of that solution and continue that and make sure they're getting a quality psych education. Not everyone even gets a psychiatry rotation, which is a shame because psychiatry is everywhere, even if you're not practicing in it. Being able to provide a more quality education so they can have hands-on and have someone. It's also just an open door policy. Even when they're no longer my student, you can text me forever to ask questions or just as a mentor in your life, something more to do.
So it sounds giving back is really important to you. And as you mentioned, you were looking for resources and there weren't very many. So that helped to motivate you to come together to co-author this book. Can you tell us a bit more about how that process came to be? What did it look like with the idea and then generating and getting it done?
Yeah, so I co-author this book with Mike Sachs. It's First Line Guide Psychiatric and Behavioral Medicine on Amazon.
So how did you meet Mike Sachs? How did you? Because he has other in the series.
Yes, yeah. So he was my preceptor. I was his student back in the day. And so
Okay.
we just had a really good relationship. And he also precepts a ton. We have over 100 students. And we maintained a professional relationship and had a really good learning experience. He reached out to me and basically asked me to co-author this book with him because he's family medicine. And obviously, there's a lot of psychiatry in family medicine. But I was the psych PA. So you are perfect for this psychiatry based book. And so we just partnered on the project because there was, a gap in the market where there didn't really have a resource. It's more easily digestible and smaller, less dense. And also for people, not just in training, but also in practice, people that are maybe seeing psychiatric patients but aren't as familiar with the meds on a regular basis. So also targeted towards the non-psych PA in addition to the psych PA or just psych provider or family medicine provider in general, not even necessarily only PAs. So yeah, it was just to have that resource. And then also it was just kind of a cool thing that just us as PAs. Okay. So
How did you decide to design it as far as references and looking over the DSM or what?
yeah, so we called the PANTS blueprint for the
Mhm.
psychiatry section in terms of the conditions covered. Obviously, blueprint doesn't list out every med, so we just
Okay.
but for the most part, it's the PANTS blueprint. And then we had editors that were other psychiatry people in the industry, including PsyDs, to have a variety of perspectives infused throughout it. It's been good. It was a fun project.
And when I was looking through it, started out with an introduction about what it's going to be on your psychiatric clerkship. It definitely seemed geared for that. And I was wondering, do people know about your book? Is it out? Do you feel like it's gotten the attention it deserves?
Yeah, I think it's known-ish. I have had students be, oh yeah, I have her book. I'm like, okay, cool. Or someone told me they got it up their library. I was like, it's in a library? How did it get there? So there's the words still getting out in general. So yeah, we'll see.
I just always think for me, it's something that's for PAs, by PAs. I just
Mhm.
think should be held first. And to be able to point my students in that direction, I think is great. And we're such humble people as PAs.
Well, we're going to definitely promote everyone here.
Exactly. That's why we're here. I like your promote place.
Uh, I love how you mentioned that the book you did was not just for psych PAs, but for PAs that want to provide mental health care, knowing the pharmacology as well as the diagnosis. You already mentioned before, you see psychiatric conditions not just in psychiatry, it's everywhere. And we should recognize that PAs are in the prime position to recognize and treat because we have a generalist training that we can specialize and we're collaborators. You mentioned you collaborate with offices. Are they mainly psych offices or do you collaborate with primary care offices?
I work for a practice that employs person clinics with in-person providers. If they need labs or an
So
injection,
it's pretty integrated.
it's extremely integrated. Yeah.
Nice.
And is it mainly a behavioral health or psychiatry practice, or is it integrated across interdisciplinary?
It is predominantly psychiatry, but we do have internal primary care and internal therapy along with
Mhm.
services as well.
Well, that's wonderful. I think that one of the things I notice in mental health care access is that everyone's working in silo, which makes no sense because you can't work and expect things to move quickly. So having a therapy team internally is really helpful, and also having the labs and internal medicine providers. So talking about collaborative care, you work in a behavioral health practice that has their internal therapy team as well as some other providers. So how do you guys collaborate? Do you have like collaborative calls? How do you integrate efficiently the way you're structured?
Totally. We have a case management team, which is a whole other situation. It is a collaborative care clinic with our EMR systems are all integrated even. So we can see each other's notes if needed when they're doing their therapy notes. We can see what meds they're on. So it's all integrated that way. And then we do staffings as needed. They'll have a question about their mutual patient more recently. We have very open channels, communication over Teams and whatnot in terms of having virtual, very easy to have meetings and chats.
I want to actually ask where I come from as my first experience being a psychiatric PA in Massachusetts was finding out that there are certain practice limitations. In the state of Massachusetts at that time, 2013, PAs were not recognized as mental health providers. To this day, we can still not initiate an involuntary commitment. So I maintain my social work license so that I can always assist a patient in crisis if needed, admit patients to inpatient hospital and order restraints or seclusions. And it's not like we want to do those things, but you need to be able to so that you're not sitting there with your hands tied. And it's so different state to state. So I'm wondering, on the one hand, has that been anything you've encountered as a psychiatric PA where you practice? And then my other question is a lot of PAs struggle to find jobs in psychiatry because there are only marketed towards NPs? Is that something you've seen as well?
Yes, great question, Jessica. The first one, not so much, has been an issue for my practice. In general, the people I've been surrounded by are very pro PAs having a seat at the table, which is awesome. But as far as the second thing, definitely noticed that one. So there are a lot more job offers, I feel, marketed towards NPs simply because the PMHNP degree exists, which is an exclusively psychiatric nurse practitioner degree. For those of you that aren't aware, it makes sense that they would be marketed towards it because they know they're already only looking for psych jobs. And I mean, there are some for PAs, obviously. The three of us are living proof that it is possible. And I know many psychiatrists know it very much is possible, but maybe a little bit more of a look-see to find the one that's the good fit for you. And I always encourage my students, you can technically apply to an NP job and just...
I always say that too. It sounds like what you're saying is, fortunately, you met somebody who had an opening and you're able to work there, but you haven't encountered any specific limitations from a legislative standpoint.
The only things I can think of that were like legislative barriers that's going to affect all of us is, for example, the controlled substances and the in-person visit, which was okay because of COVID times. Now we're getting away from those times. And so it's going to require more in-person visits. So I've had in-person visits be required also for Medicare, but it hasn't again really affected me because we have the infrastructure for
to support it.
Yeah.
Great. That's good. That's wonderful. Hopefully it'll be like that eventually for everyone.
And I think it also depends on just how you're saying, Rebecca. If it doesn't exist, make it exist. Be that forefront person and educate the HR, educate whoever to recognize the value of PAs in psychiatry or PAs in general. And what I'm seeing is some businesses and companies are recognizing the importance of our value in a team collaborative effort. They will help with legislative barriers. We need more of them, but making sure that future PAs recognize that they do exist, and you just have to do your homework. Like you're saying, Rebecca, be the feet on the ground. You are going to advocate for yourself. I love how you are detail-oriented on your path. You were like, I'm going to be a PA, and these are the steps. I'm going to make myself look like the best PA. What would be your biggest advice for new PAs
in order to get their foot in the door of psychiatry specifically?
Yeah.
So I think seeking out rotation experiences, whatever that is. Just because you're in a general surgery rotation doesn't mean you can't spend a week with the ortho surgeon or the gynec surgeon. So seeking out experiences that are psychiatry related, whatever that is for you in your rotation environment. I would then highlight those on your CV. I would then add extra information for those to look at this experience. And even though maybe you didn't have months and months in psychiatry, you are clearly passionate about this. So I think that's the baseline in terms of earlier on things to do for relationships more than anything else. That would be my number one tip.
Just want to say, working in psychiatry, sometimes people can struggle with high acuity and the continual exposure to people struggling with their mental health. What do you do to help maintain your own mental health work-life balance?
Yeah, my first comment will be that we get a lot of hard, sad things that we hear. And I get asked this a lot by people interested in psychiatry. The first appointment is usually the worst. They're coming to you at their worst, and that's why they schedule to be a new patient that day. If you're good at your job, they should only get better. A lot of times people that were once the saddest thing are your biggest successes and are the most happy people later on. So I always try to also bring up that perspective to not just think about it of the sadness in that moment, but the opportunity for growth and for it to be something that you can actually feel really proud of.
What do you do for fun?
I do also do fun things outside of work. I really enjoy traveling across country and throughout the world. I like to rock climb, specifically indoor. I'm really into coffee. I'm from Seattle. Obviously, there's a big coffee scene there. I like to hike. So I try to stay involved in my community as much as possible outside of work as well.
That's awesome. I love your traveling. I think it started like you traveled for the travel rotation and then you just kept it going. You're in telepsych and have a bit more remote flexibility. If someone wants to know more about you, where can they go? Is it your Instagram that you typically refer people to? Rebecca West Coast PA?
Yes, that's the one. West Coast PA. My Instagram page. So feel free to follow me on there. I'm also very receptive to DMs and messages for personalized individualized questions and help anytime.
This has been so great to just get to know you and get to know your journey and just how passionate you are at being a PA. I hope that this continues to inspire others, because I think that there's more of us that just need to hear each other's stories to know that there is a path for us in psychiatry, and you can move mountains, you can rock climb, you can make a book, put it out there. So thank you so much for sharing your story.